Support for 614 Startups comes from Hairdrop. Never visit the beauty supply store again. Order your beauty products from the Hairdrop app and have them delivered in an hour or less. Hairdrop is like DoorDash for beauty products. Get your hair care, grooming tools, hair extensions, and more when you need them to ensure you look and feel your best at all times. Available for download from both the Apple and Google Play stores. Get a beauty supply store in your pocket by visiting hairdrop.app and have your beauty delivered today. This episode is brought to you by Rev1. Rev1's mission is to help entrepreneurs build great companies. As you navigate the waters of business entrepreneurship, you don't have to go it alone. A strategic partnership with Rev1 connects innovators to the talent, customers, space, and funding you need when you need it. Get started with Rev1 Startup Studio by visiting rev1ventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is rev1ventures.com. 614 Startups Nation, welcome to another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. My name is Elio Harmon, your host, and it's a pleasure to welcome my guest to the studio, Luke Buchanan of Redi.Health. Luke, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, man, when you popped up on the calendar, I didn't know there was a lot coming up for you in the week since you signed up to be a guest and you appearing as a guest. And it'll even be a couple more weeks. So if you have any surprises coming in a couple weeks before this goes live, we might get into it. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, great, man. Well, you know, I don't take for granted that a lot of the faces that come on this show are new faces to the community generally. So I always like to start with some personal and professional background. Let's start there.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start professionally. So my background, my degree is actually in philosophy, which happy to go into that a lot. But I only say that because as I transitioned into the workforce, I felt like I used that every single day. So I'm a Capital University grad, but a big Buckeye fan. So I'm through and through Columbus, Ohio. But I actually started my career at a company called Cover My Meds. So I'm sure everybody knows about that large company.
Oh, yeah, that small company.
Yeah, right. So I started there in 2016. It was bought by McKesson in 2017, and so I saw a lot of really cool transitional elements as it relates to going from startup into really growth stage established company, and then even further into established entity under McKesson. And so my background there was in data analytics and in value engineering on the data side.
All right, I gotta stop you there.
Yeah.
Philosophy to data analytics. What's the connection there?
I mean, that's a good question. So that's why I brought up the philosophy initially and everything. And I think when people think about data, they think numbers, mathematics, and that's certainly a part of it, but really it's problem solving. And when you think about having a philosophy background or studying philosophy, or just taking some philosophy classes, it's just teaching you how to think and learn and critically solve problems. And so that ended up being, I didn't know it at the time, that ended up being such a natural fit for me with that background.
All right, so Cover My Meds, data analytics.
Yep.
Let's keep this tape going.
Yeah, sure. So from there, I did a lot with pharmaceutical manufacturers, and particularly with their data as it relates to the patient journey, which is essentially just how does a patient and their data move through the healthcare system pretty inefficiently right now, but ultimately got a front row seat into some really unique stuff as it related to understanding what patients need, what they can access, what they're not accessing, what they might not even know is available to them. And so that was great. That was some foundational elements in my career there, and then certainly will serve me now and then in the future too. But from data analytics, I actually moved into leading Cover My Meds pharmaceutical account management team. So again, changing the rails, but more on the customer success side. Spent several years doing that, learned a lot, met a lot of really cool people, both internally at Cover My Meds, but also in the pharma world and in pharmacy, PBM, health system, really expanded my network there. And then started Redi just back in May.
Okay, so school, Cover My Meds, a couple years, see the whole process, then right on to starting your company.
Yeah.
All right, so a lot of things, like you said, the ability to transition, wear a lot of hats is important in startups.
Absolutely.
And a lot of things that you saw maybe represented business opportunities that you picked up on, maybe informed some of your decisioning to start Redi. So what's the genesis of Redi? Why this company? Why this problem? Why now?
Yeah, so great question. And a lot of it comes from the time spent at Cover My Meds, of course, but really the genesis of Redi is built on the feedback from various stakeholders in healthcare that all had this really unique consensus as it related to what they needed in the space today. And so whether it be a pharmacy benefit manager, insurance company, or a pharmaceutical manufacturer, dealing with all of them and their data and what they needed from the system, there was an overwhelming consensus of, I struggle to connect to my patients in a way that's meaningful to them. And so the founding team of Redi comes from different areas of healthcare, whether it be in their background or in their degree, or where it be for the companies that they came from. 3 of us came from Cover My Meds, 1 from Beam Dental, which is another astounding startup here in Columbus. And we all kind of brought different elements as it related to understanding how do we get different stakeholders in healthcare to connect to patients in a meaningful way. How do we make it meaningful for the patient? How do we make it meaningful for the stakeholder that's trying to outreach to that patient? And so just through networking and being at the same company, and then obviously knowing mutual friends with Jamin, who's the founder from Beam Dental, we kind of put our heads together and came up with a lot of really cool opportunities that could solve a lot of problems for patients.
All right, so, and this is always kind of an interesting backstory moment in startups, right? The choice to either join with others or potentially go it alone or go with maybe a single co-founder.
Yeah.
Why did you feel, or why did it feel for all of you that all of you brought skills that were necessary to launch and scale the company? And how do you guys complement each other in that founding group?
Well, so the last part of that question is exactly, it answers the first part, which is instead of going it alone or just with one, why go with a larger group? And that's because I think it's important for founders, at least initial founders, to have the self-awareness of where they might lack. Of course, anybody I think can learn the skills needed to go do it alone, but ultimately you can go very fast and far when you pick people that are experts in their various fields. And most importantly, and this is the most important part across the entire founding team at Redi, it's also what we look for in any new employee that comes on, people who want to learn from others, right? That know that they could be the smartest person in the room for one thing, but they can always learn something from somebody else.
All right, so there are technical roles, like you can do this, you're more skilled at this, you're more expert at this.
Yes.
But then there are also roles like hierarchy, right? Decision making, et cetera, right? When the larger the committee, sometimes that could lead to paralysis by analysis, a lot of different input without one clear person to maybe break a tie. How did you guys think about decision making, hierarchy, and how you guys were going to go around running the company? Who's going to play what role in terms of a management structure?
Yeah, another good question. I think a problem that any company anywhere faces, regardless of your stage. But with Redi, it was really simple from the sense of the original founding team. It was myself and Jamin who started, and then we brought in Nate Ream and Kyle Grimslid, who brought a lot to the table as it related to their various areas of expertise. But the roles that each one of them held in their entire past employment, all the experience that they had, their life experiences, it very naturally fit into what we knew needed to be the focus point for every individual. So as we move forward with that, however, the most important thing is that every employee that comes on feels enormously heard in their opinion on the product or the structure or the culture as it relates to the company. But ultimately, we try and take that into account, kind of survey it across everybody, make sure that everybody's heard, and then make decisions collectively. If we're talking about tiebreakers, right, obviously there's the founding team of the company that at this time, at our stage, makes those ultimate decisions, but so far we haven't had to encounter any of those instances.
All right, man, I gotta ask, because the people watching are thinking about starting a company, thinking about going it alone, thinking about that founding team and some of the considerations that they could make, and sometimes that is where a lot of companies fail, right? Not in the short term, but potentially in the long term. Now, I want to pivot to the idea behind Redi.Health, but I got to take a quick break. Stay tuned for my conversation with Luke Buchanan. We're going to take a couple minutes here from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Support for 614 Startups comes from Color Coded Labs. It's time for a better career in tech. Introducing Color Coded Labs, a 16-week boot camp that does more than just teach basic code. It's a program designed to help you actually get a career in tech. At Color Coded Labs, we've removed all the barriers to help you learn the skills you need to start a career you love in weeks, not years. All designed for people of color by people of color. Apply now at colorcodedlabs.com. All right, guys, let's all be honest with ourselves. How many times have you needed to get an oil change, clean your car, or get a tire rotation, and you've put it off for weeks on end? We're all guilty of it. My friends over at Vaunt set out to make delayed car care a thing of the past and created the most convenient and affordable way to care for your car. All you have to do is, 1, book your service and desired pickup location. 2, drop your keys with a certified Vaunt driver who picks up your car for you. And 3, your car will be serviced and delivered back to you within 3 hours. From now on, the only thing you have to worry about is where you're going and who you're going with. Look, guys, I'm telling you, this is the future. Try out Vaunt, VOHNT.com, and use promo code 614startups for 20% off. 614 Startups Nation, thank you for staying with us. I'm back to continue my conversation with Luke Buchanan of Redi.Health. All right, now, Luke, the big reveal, man. Tell us about Redi.Health.
Yeah, so Redi is a health management platform that essentially allows patients to first manage their health in a really meaningful and simplified way, but then connect them to support services they may not otherwise have ease of access to.
Okay, so healthcare management platform, break it down. What does that mean from a patient experience standpoint?
Yeah. So I'll dive into what it means for Redi, because there's a lot of platforms out there, right? If you're a patient out there today, you probably have downloaded several of them, experienced many of them. Redi takes a different approach. And so it's all founded on this one simple question. And this question combines two very different worlds, but ultimately is what patients need to take the next step in digital health. And that is, how do we make patient support part of a patient's daily health routine? I'll say that again. How do we make patient support part of a patient's daily health routine? So there's two parts in that we kind of need to unpack as we understand what Redi does. And the first part is patient support, right, which I'll get into in a second, but the more important part is the daily health routine. That's the health management aspect that you were asking about. And so if you're a patient living with chronic disease out there today, you will probably, this will resonate with you very quickly. And that's, a lot of times there's a big question mark next to daily health routine. That's not always simple for a patient to understand or navigate. And so if we want to integrate any sort of support services for patients offered by various stakeholders into the daily health routine of a patient, we have to solve the daily health routine part for patients first. And the problem there is that technology hasn't focused on patients in a way that allows them to have the tools and the know-how and really give them the autonomy to create a good foundation of daily health.
So is that an American thing? Like, okay, so let's talk about daily health routine, right?
Yeah.
Because this problem has to be different when you start thinking country to country,
Yep.
region by region. Some regions, people are like, yeah, of course I have a daily health routine, and here's what it is. Other regions, it's like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
Is this a global problem? Is this an American problem? Is this a regional problem? What is the underlying issue here?
Yeah, so it's definitely a global problem. And the problem manifests different in different regions globally, but we'll focus on the American element first. And so a daily health routine in America for a healthy person can be, right, waking up at 6 a.m., going on a run, coming back, eating well, going to sleep at a reasonable hour. But that's not what Redi focuses on. So when I say this is global, I mean it's global for a very particular type of patient. And Redi focuses on what we call polychronic patients, which are patients with 2, 3+ chronic diseases that they're living with today.
And you don't get that unless you don't have a daily routine.
Say that again, sorry.
Lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm guessing these chronic conditions, at least in the American context, are things like type 2 diabetes, obesity, and heart conditions. Right? Typically, those things don't develop if you have a daily health routine, right? So is that kind of, which comes first,
Yes.
right? The chicken or the egg?
So there are certainly conditions out there that can be prevented or staved off via proactive care. But Redi dives into specialty, more orphan diseases as well. So you're thinking about like the cystic fibrosis, right? The TNF, the oncology, so having cancer, multiple sclerosis. Those are examples of illnesses that you probably can't really avoid, right?
Gotcha. So it's less of a focus purely on the lifestyle diseases, but you're even taking on conditions that your mind may not immediately run to as diseases where a daily health routine might be very impactful.
So the fact that your mind doesn't immediately run to those is exactly why technology hasn't served those particular patients yet. So you've really illuminated the reason why what's out there today is to serve generally, it can be patients with chronic conditions, but it's out there to serve the big box populations, you know, type 2 diabetes, heart conditions. There are countless patients out there that don't have technology that's built for them and are living with a complex chronic profile.
So what's the more interesting customer for Redi.Health? Is it the typical ones that my mind runs to that gets you out of bed ready, really fired up to solve this problem? Or is it the customers that my mind don't run to? What is it about this tool that gets you excited and say, hey, this is a company I want to build?
Yeah, so we're excited about all patients that want to use the platform.
Oh, that's
Absolutely,
safe.
Right?
That's
yeah.
safe.
So,
right.
but I'll dive in a little bit more, right? So some of these conditions out there are very complex. No condition is straightforward, right? There's no routine heart disease, of course. But as it relates to where Redi can step in with technology to solve an unmet need, it's generally going to be with patients that are on higher cost medications, on multiple medications, and they have a condition that causes them to have to manage things in a more complex way. So it's less straightforward, maybe slightly lower patient populations. However, Redi is certainly built for those more common chronic conditions as well.
Yeah, every patient matters.
Every patient matters,
yes.
Absolutely. Where we can step in to really help in, which is on the patient support side, which we haven't gotten to yet, and this is where Redi as a twofold solution can really shine, is for the patients that have available support to them through pharmaceutical manufacturers and specialty pharmacies that they struggle to access today. That's generally going to be for patients that have conditions in the rare disease space.
Okay, so I'm going to refer to the patient side as the front end.
Yes.
Right? So on the front end, how are patients finding out about Redi.Health? Let's say I'm out there and what was the word?
Polychronic.
Polychronic, okay? I'm dealing with all of these issues, and maybe in some instances, disease I'm not really thinking about a daily health routine for. I'm just maybe part of my daily health routine, or my only routine is to take the prescribed medications, but there's more I could be doing. How does a patient first encounter Redi.Health? Who are the people out there informing the public about Redi.Health so that I could include it as a tool?
Yeah, so you can download Redi.Health. You can go to the App Store and download it today.
But I wouldn't necessarily know to go download it. So how am I finding out about it? Is it through my doctor's office, my specialist? What are the channels that you're accessing to get me to?
So we partner with those offering patient support in order to allow patients to access that in a more meaningful way.
And who's that?
So that can be a pharmaceutical manufacturer, specialty pharmacy, an insurance company or PBM, could even be a health system. But primarily we focus on what patients struggle to access most today. And that's going to be on the pharmaceutical manufacturer side, so those making the medications that these patients are taking, and the specialty pharmacy side.
All right, now here's a cynic in me, right? Because you hear this all the time,
Yeah.
right? Pharmaceutical companies want to keep you as sick as long as possible because they want to sell you the drugs. Why would they want you to create a daily routine that helps improve your health? Now, debunk that myth.
So I don't necessarily agree with that,
Okay.
right? But it's a fair assumption, I think, in terms of how pharmaceutical companies have been painted today, right? The fact of the matter is chronic disease exists, right? And there are pharmaceutical companies out there that are incentivized to try and treat those diseases in a really meaningful way. The system's complex. I'm not going to say that it's perfect by any means, right? But pharma manufacturers spend millions each year on services for patients to help them start and stay on the medication. And they want patients to have really positive outcomes on their medications. That helps them get covered by insurance more efficiently. It allows them to prove that the medication's working in a really positive way. And ultimately, medications, the lifespan of them can be just a handful of years in many cases. And they'll use the money from that to then go develop something probably in the same disease state area, ultimately leading to hopefully a curative treatment one day.
All right, I feel like we're about to put a bow on this thing, so let's go to the back end, right?
Yeah.
The support system.
Yep.
So what is the problem that they're having that will entice them, will provide enough value, return on investment that they would want to tell their customers about Redi.Health?
Yeah, so I mentioned it really previously, just a second ago, in that manufacturers, specialty pharmacies, they spend a lot trying to get patients to stay on these high-cost medications. The high-cost medications that are more complex, whether it be just in understanding what they do or having to take them in a way that isn't as straightforward, there's a lot of abandonment related to those. But those are the medications that are the most contemporary treatments for patients today, meaning the patient can have the best outcome on these newest meds. So pharma and specialty pharmacies spend a lot through all these services, these patient support services as they're called. It's a lesser known area of the healthcare industry, but it's there just to help patients start and stay on the high cost meds. That could be a call center agent, it could be educational material, it could be transportation assistance, nurse counseling, you name it. These companies are standing up this support for patients to stay on their medications. The problem is, whether it be from a regulatory standpoint or just because of technology that's lagged behind in this space, is they struggle to get patients to engage with it long term. And if you're talking about a patient with a chronic disease, they need to have access to this support long term. Redi is that solution in that it helps a patient establish that daily health routine, but then it integrates that support directly into that routine so a patient can access it in a really convenient way and on the patient's terms. So the patient decides when they access the support.
Now, this is a matter of efficacy, right? What's demonstrated to be more effective? What they're doing now versus what you're introducing. So their support services probably more human-to-human contact. Hey, we're calling you from the call center. This is, Joe with Pfizer.
Yep.
And we see that you have a prescription for X, Y, and Z. One, can you fill it?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I saw that you filled it. How's it going? Any side effects? All of that support stuff,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
So when you're talking to the patient support organizations or the manufacturers and the pharmacies, what are they telling you about the way that they're currently doing it, and what are the results that they're finding versus what your software can do, and how do you solve that problem?
Yeah, so what they're doing today is getting a job done for a particular type of patient, the one that is willing to play the phone tag, that is willing to put the high effort into stepping out of their daily health routine into trying to access this support. So we are not a replacement for person to person. We don't want to be, right? There's no replacement for talking to somebody to solve your problems. There's no replacement for going to a clinician. That's not going to exist. But what Redi does is just help make it efficient, more efficient and more convenient for a patient to access that support all in one place. So they don't have to field a phone call and then go to a website and then enroll in some copay card service. It's all aggregated in one spot for them. And so we're not a replacement to the services today. We're an add-on and enhancement to them.
Gotcha. Now, I got to play devil's advocate, man.
Yeah, please do.
Are you
Go
having
for it.
fun here?
Of course I'm having fun.
All right, good.
Absolutely.
This is what 614 Startups is all
Okay,
about.
all
It's
right,
about
all right.
getting to the issue,
Yep,
right?
let's
Now,
do it.
let's talk about technology and the technological
Okay.
divide.
Okay.
Because I also, in my day job, right, work with seniors.
Okay.
People who are the prime say that word again.
Polychronic.
Polychronic, right, of
Yes.
our world, of our health system,
Yes.
right? The 5% of patients that represent 50% of the costs, right? But there might be a technological divide. How are
Absolutely.
you guys thinking about that?
Yeah, it's a great question. There is certainly a technological divide as it relates to seniors, but that won't last forever as we have more and more tech-enabled individuals aging into senior populations today. That's something that is taking place currently. In 5 years, it's going to be even more exacerbated. 10 years from now, there's going to be a lot of individuals that have a lot of chronic illness that are tech-enabled. I'll flip though and say, hey, let's not look at the future right now. I'd love to do that, but I won't do that right now. Let's look at what you're saying. Those individuals that are seniors today. Well, oftentimes, right, they have a caretaker involved to them, which is likely a loved one that's just looking after their care overall. That support today would go to that caretaker. They would be the one that has to go figure out, hey, is my loved one eligible for copay assistance, any sort of patient assistance program as it relates to, if they're on the Medicare side. Am I eligible for certain counseling as it relates to support groups? Can I get transportation assistance? If I can't be there to take my loved one to their appointment, that would go through the caretaker. And Redi actually allows you to sign up as a caretaker if you are that persona. So we recognize that a lot of individuals today need help, but aren't going to be tech enabled, but their loved ones taking care of them probably are. And so we've created a specific persona for that.
Gotcha. So let's talk about getting patient, are you calling them patients?
They're patients, yes.
Patients, okay. Let's talk about getting patients onto the Redi.Health platform. Yep. You approach a pharmacy partner, a support partner. Hey, this could be something, I want to pilot it, I want to be part of your beta test, let's deploy it in the field. How is that now getting into the hands of that patient for the very first time? Does it come with a certain medication subscription? Does it come with a certain level of quote unquote non-compliance? How are they getting you those first users?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different ways that a patient could access the platform. We kind of divide them into two areas. We call it personal and non-personal promotion. The simplest way on the non-personal promotion side is when you're prescribed a new medication, one of the things that we see patients do very often is Google it. And where do they end up? On the manufacturer's website. So something that we do currently is we're on the manufacturer's website, and a patient sees that they can access all of their support, have access to a premium health management tool from the website, and they download it directed from the website. So that's a very easy way to get traffic from a manufacturer into the website. The personal side, there's a couple other ways, but we'll go to the personal side here. This works for both pharmacies and it works for pharmaceutical manufacturers. When a patient has been enrolled into their services, so either the patient's getting the medication from the specialty pharmacy or a healthcare provider has actually enrolled the patient in the pharmaceutical manufacturer's support services, they're probably going to send the patient a welcome kit. They might send them a welcome email. They'll call out to them about various things they may be eligible for. Upon those touch points, they can then surface Redi.Health to them and say, hey, you're welcome to continue to talk to me phone to phone, right? Or you can access at your convenience all of this various support that I'm about to detail to you. And that's a very effective way to do it, obviously, because you're actually riding the rails of that person to person and then allowing for long-term convenient connectivity built on the back of that.
All right, got it. So I'm there. I'm in the App Store.
Yep.
I download Redi.Health. I took a look at your website. You guys have this saying.
Yep.
Right, putting you at the center of your health. When I have that application and I download it, how do you put me at the center of my health?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for us, being at the center of your health, it doesn't mean something like treating yourself, right? Or leading the charge as it relates to telling your doctor what to do or telling your pharmacist what to do. They're trained to treat you. They should go ahead and do that. But patients are, in our opinion, the most underutilized conduit of information in the healthcare system. You can and should be an active contributor to your health. You just need the simplified and basic tools to give you the first step and foundation to be able to do that. So being at the center of your health just means having a confident seat at the table for your health conversation. It allows you to go in and talk to your healthcare provider in a little bit more of a contemporary way, a little bit more of a confident way, whether that be tracking your symptoms or showing them your adherence report. Or you can go to your pharmacy and you can have a conversation with them about the medication because you're educated on your chronic illness and how the medication may interact with that. And so whether it be health literacy, symptom tracking, adherence tracking, getting insights from the platform just so you can have a better contribution to your own health journey, that's what being at the center of your health means.
We got to dig into this, okay? All right, because it's very high level, center of your health. We got to dig into the little, we got to parse it through.
Okay.
All right, so the issue here is that, and I'm going to just say this and be blunt, patients don't always tell the truth.
That's true.
All right, they're not telling their doctor the truth. They're probably not telling their caregiver the truth. So now I have this tool. Do you rely on the patient's reported truth? Or does that patient come over with a profile that informs that you can compare what they're saying to you versus what you're seeing in their health record?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Depending on how they come into the platform, will determine whether there's some proactive information associated.
Yeah, I'm great. I'm running 2 miles a day. Are you depending on that, or how are you? So let's talk about what you know about the patient before what they report, and then how do you really build out an accurate view of this person's health routine?
Yeah, so first and foremost, it's there for the patient to manage their own health and access support. So we rely a lot on the patient reporting and tracking themselves because that's the tools there to do. But if a patient is not coming in cold through a channel where they're just signing up, if they're coming in through a manufacturer's support service, if they're coming in from a specialty pharmacy, then there's going to be information on that patient. And those entities are going to want to collect information on the patient. And they'll do that in a way that's been proven out today as it relates to collecting that information in a robust way. So in those instances, we're not necessarily relying as much on self-reported data. But for the purpose of a patient managing their own health, that's going to be on them to tell the truth really to themselves. And then if they want to relay that information to somebody else, that's really their choice.
Hold on, Luke. That's going to make for a very interesting conversation, that reliance on the patient reliability, because I think that is at the core, right, of that daily routine. Can you transition them from it's my doctor's responsibility to keep me healthy versus it's my responsibility to be healthy? All right, folks, I hope you're enjoying this conversation. We have to take another break to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back with my conversation with Luke Buchanan of Redi.Health. Support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Bernstein Private Wealth Management's Columbus-based team of professional advisors. In a world where most investment managers look alike, Bernstein Private Wealth Management has evolved into an organization like no other. Some money managers look to add value after a business is sold, but Bernstein delivers proactive advice right from the start. Whether you're eyeing the exit or you've just launched, Bernstein is committed to your financial success. If you're interested in partnering with Bernstein on your entrepreneurial journey, visit bernstein.com to learn more. Again, that website is bernstein.com to learn more. Bernstein, fully invested in better outcomes. Support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Nationwide. Nationwide's mission is to protect people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care. To help fulfill that mission, Nationwide is looking to invest its $350 million venture capital investment fund in insurtechs that will help them create new and exciting products and solutions to meet the needs of their customers. If you're interested in partnering with Nationwide's venture capital team, visit nationwideventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is nationwideventures.com. Nationwide is on your side. 614 Startups Nation, welcome back to my conversation with Luke Buchanan of Redi.Health. Luke, I'm not going to waste any time. We got to jump in, man. You have me glued, okay?
All right.
All right, let's talk about this issue of personal responsibility, because so much is dependent on the patient and their engagement in their health. How are you guys thinking about that at Redi.Health?
Yeah, so what you asked me before is how do you transition it's my doctor's job to keep me healthy to it's my responsibility to keep me healthy. And I think, again, when we talk about having a seat at the table for your health conversation, it's not any one person's responsibility. There are things that each person can control that they should really take an active role in contributing to. We're trying to help the patient take control and contribute to what really they have an opportunity to improve. And so that's really tracking what you do today, being more adherent to your medications after you leave the doctor's office, tracking your symptoms in a way so you can have a contemporary conversation with whatever clinician you're talking to, and becoming a little bit more educated on your overall health. There's a lot of different ways that we go ahead and do that. But the patient is personally responsible for specific things about them, right? Taking their medication is one of those things. Their doctor is not calling them every day saying, take your pill. Even if they did that, a patient could, like you said before, they could lie. So what we do is instead give the tools that are simplified and intuitive enough that a patient can have confidence learning how to take more responsibility for their health, which ultimately downstream would save them time.
Okay, so let's say I'm fully engaged. I want to take responsibility for my health. I am your perfect patient, right? I'm going to engage with this thing like I'm engaging with Facebook or Instagram. I'm on it, right? I'm on Redi.Health. What does that onboarding look like for me? For me to provide you, whether I have an existing routine, what are some of the common questions you're asking when you're onboarding a new person?
Yeah, so sign-up process is incredibly simple. One, when you come into the platform, if you were directed there by a partner, it's going to be a slightly different experience based off of each individual partner, but you'll input or show that this partner has sponsored you on the platform. You can just come into it without a sponsor. We want every patient to have this, totally free to patients. But it's a very basic 3-step process, and it was built in conjunction with primary care physicians. So we spent a lot of time and research tirelessly really digging into how can we get the patient to input the information that they know is really important for them to manage their health. They don't need to know that they broke their ankle when they're 12. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. That can be overwhelming when they're looking at their health record. Instead, we take a very simple approach that's built off the back of a new patient start form. So if you go to the doctor today, they'll hand you a form and ask you about your health history. And you'll fill it out in maybe 5 minutes. The Redi process is just under 2. It's 3 simple steps. start with your demographics, some of the information about you, go over to your conditions, which we can pre-populate based off of the code you've input, so we know you have a certain condition. It's very streamlined. And then get into allergies and medications. Once you input those, the process changes to customize around your specific health conditions and medications, bringing you educational material, giving you tips on how to be more adherent, all of that within the platform immediately after onboarding.
Okay, so I onboard 5 minutes, I'm in the system. Are you asking me also what my current routine is, or you guys are building my routine with me? How are you doing that?
Yeah, so Redi errs on the side of hyper simplicity, right? So you'll see on the website as well, right? We talk about being at the center of your health, but also we believe in patients and them being active contributors in your health. So we put a lot of stock in patients to say, hey, you can take control here. Our technological philosophy is we don't build tools to manage a patient's health for them. We build tools to help patients manage their own health. That's a distinct difference, right? But what that essentially means is we've created tools that are not over-engineered. They're very simplified. Where they work hard is feeding the patient back insights about what they're inputting and cross-referencing those across various aspects of their health. So we can show how their exercise may impact their symptoms, may impact their medication adherence. But the tools individually, those 3 individual tools, are very simple and allow a patient to really take control of how they want to use it.
Okay, so simple tools allows them to take control. How are you, what are some key data points that you need to collect to recommend, if that's the right word that you're using, a daily routine that's actually going to get them to their goal? So what are some things that you're collecting and then developing a daily routine recommendation around?
Yeah, so that's a difficult line to toe if you're trying to actually recommend like clinical advice.
Okay.
That's not something we really do because we're not a clinician, right? We want the patient to be armed with the proper information and insights to go have that conversation with their clinician in a better way than they are today, right? So again, we're not a replacement for anything clinical. We're just helping the patient actively contribute to that clinical conversation. So instead of recommending a daily routine, we'll serve them insights about how different aspects of their routine may be impacting the various elements of that routine.
Gotcha.
And so what we're doing is showing them essentially how to refine and tighten up the routine that they've already established, not building the routine for them.
Okay, so I need an example to really let this sink in.
Okay.
So let's say I have a particular condition and the medication has a high instance of nausea. And I'm telling the system, like, I'm nauseous every day. I'm nauseous every day. Typically, you would then gradually go from one medication to now you're on a medication to manage the nausea.
Yep.
Right? And the medication to manage the nausea causes dizziness. So now you get on a medication for dizziness. So how are you guys thinking about, like, what would happen in that situation, right? Like, you are tracking my symptoms. And it's known that a side effect is nausea. Is that where an insight into the daily routine around non-pharmaceutical means for management? I mean, what are you helping with in that situation?
Yeah, so that instance you've given is a particular one where it's almost like medication dominoes, right?
Correct.
And so that doesn't always necessarily occur, right? More so where Redi can help there, but where the platform really digs in is essentially, right, I have a symptom, I'm taking a new medication for it, how is that improving over time? And I need to be able to show my healthcare provider that. So let's say you go into the doctor's office, and I know I'm pivoting here. It's going to seem like I'm being...
Let's talk through it.
Yeah. So you go to the doctor's office and your doctor asks you, hey, how have you felt the past 6 months as it relates to your back pain? You're probably going to think maybe 2 weeks, maybe just this past week. There's no way you're going to remember that entire 6 months. But if you have a tool that prompts you, then you've decided how often you want it to prompt you every 3 days, right? Simple 1 through 10 scale, maybe some notes as it relates to your back pain. And then you can easily send that report to your healthcare provider. And your provider can see month over month, you've gone from a 10 to an 8 to a 7, and then now down to a 3. They can be like, oh, the medication we've given you is probably working, or the physical therapy that you're on, that's been working. Let's go ahead and change things up a little bit.
So let me ask you, okay, and I am no clinician. And you're not a clinician, you're a philosopher, okay? So we're both disqualifying ourselves for giving any clinical advice. That's a disclosure. 614 Startups is not telling you what to do for your daily routine, all right? So let's say somebody has CHF. One of the issues with congestive heart failure is weight, like like fluctuations in your weight. Like your doctor wants to know.
Yes.
So maybe the routine recommendation, based on what you know about their clinical condition and the medications that they're taking, is this person needs to be weighing themselves.
Yes.
So then what Redi.Health will prompt them to do is daily weights. Have you weighed yourself? Put your weight in. So when I do go see my doctor and they ask me, like, what was your weight 2 weeks after you started taking this medication, I could literally tell them that.
Yes. Yeah, and you'd be able to, not even that, you'd be able to pull a report up in the room with them to where even if you don't feel confident in reviewing that information yourself, you are confident in the fact that you've been tracking it, right, in a way that's very intuitive and simple. So you could go in the office and say, you know what, I don't really know, but here's my report.
All right.
And your physician then could make that distinction. Because your example is very, very applicable, especially with CHF, right? 3 pounds up or down can really mean something. And so if you're weighing in, you would also maybe want a platform that says, hey, you fluctuated 3 pounds from yesterday, you should probably call your doctor. That is something that, in an instance where we're partnering with a CHF medication, that if that manufacturer wants that type of tracking directivity, that we could build that in.
All right. And how about tracking that may not necessarily be pharmacy driven or pharmacy related? Let's talk about conditions that have like acute conditions, right? You're talking about chronic, but an acute onset instance like a stroke then causes a complete change in that person's, so the late effects of the stroke are chronic, right? But there are different pathways that person can take to recover. How are you guys thinking about those acute onset conditions that then result in long-term chronic illness? Are you guys looking at any of that right now?
So I suppose indirectly, right? If you have a stroke, you're probably going to be on several different medications for the rest of your life, potentially, right? And so very likely the way that you would use the tool Redi in that sense is you would input those new medications in there, and that would help you from the chronic management of the symptoms, maybe post-stroke, but also ensuring that you're adhering to the medication. So not necessarily focusing on the stroke, but helping you manage what is now the need for a very different daily health routine that you need to establish. And Redi is there to help guide you through that process, or at least give you the tools to build that foundation yourself rather than just having to figure it out on your own.
Fascinating, fascinating conversation. So you're going around, you're telling this story, you're building this product. Is this product live now with patients on it? Are you deploying it with partners? Where are you guys in that process?
Yeah, so we're very early, right? As I said before, we just launched in the June timeframe. So, and we just closed our seed round as well. So just about 6 months old. We do have one commercialized live product today. And we do have a beta usage of the patients from that on the product doing testing, and the results have been really well on that. We have several up and coming, especially going into the new year. The way that things kind of work with partners is, right, they get their budgets the new year, and so they want to launch new solutions at that time. So 2022 is going to be very exciting for Redi. But it's been a slow go right now, but we're 6 months old, right?
Slow go, 6 months, yeah. You guys got time.
Yeah.
And it's great that you had those connections, right, with the pharmacy company, the conversations that you were having in biz dev, you saw the problems firsthand. Getting your first customer is absolutely critical because you need that data. So you have the first customer, you're getting some data, and then you go out to raise some money. What was the response to the Redi.Health story?
Yeah, so, raising a seed round, it's a blast, right? It's hard work, but it's a blast. So first, I would highly recommend that anybody who has a product idea try and work through the venture capital system, because there is no replacement for somebody coming in and just beating your idea to crap. It teaches you how to refine it in a way that I cannot even begin to describe.
Did you cry, man?
I didn't cry. I didn't cry.
Okay,
I didn't cry.
Okay.
I didn't cry in front of anybody.
Okay, all right.
My wife may say otherwise, but no. Yeah. So going out and telling the story, there was a lot of interest, particularly because of our backgrounds, right? We have a well-rounded team that fills a lot of different gaps, and so that on its own, especially at the seed stage, people like to invest in good teams that have a lot of potential and a lot of connections. So we were fortunate to have that. But even then, right, the thing you hear most when you start raising is no, or not right now, or talk to me in January. And so, we just kind of, drove through that. We raised the round relatively quickly. But the advice I give anybody from a seed perspective is take every single meeting that's offered to you, because the chain reaction that got us to our lead was, we met with somebody who said, no, you're too early for us, which is fine, right? But we asked them to introduce to somebody else who got us into a pitch fest where we met our lead investor. And so we got no, probably 10 no's. And then it clicked with somebody who was like, I understand this. This is something that I want to lead with you. And that's a great feeling, right? And all the no's refined us up to that point.
Now, before I ask the question I want to ask, the lead is Mutual
Capital Partners.
Capital Partners out of Cleveland.
That's correct.
I got to hold Columbus accountable as part of my job.
Yeah.
Why does a Columbus company need to go to Cleveland to find a lead? Do you feel like any chip on your shoulder for that? Do you feel like first investors need to be, like more Columbus companies should be taking the lead on Columbus startups?
Yeah, so I guess that's an interesting question. I didn't really think about it from a Columbus standpoint. I really thought about it from an Ohio standpoint. That was really important to me, or maybe even like a Midwest standpoint. I think the venture scene in Columbus is great. It's really strong in Cincinnati and Cleveland as well. And the overwhelming response I got from Columbus VCs when we were talking about Cleveland VCs is great. We work really well with them, or even Cincinnati VCs, or even Chicago VCs, right? Anywhere in the Midwest, it's, hey, we have a really great working relationship. So maybe if someone had said like, oh, you got to go Columbus, or we're not going to work with that Cleveland individual, I would have started siloing things a little bit. But it all seemed like a real Ohio kind of minded attitude, which was great.
All right. Now the question I want to ask is, you're going and you're asking for people to believe enough in your idea and your team to make an investment, but you also are evaluating them. Is this the right partner? Is this who I want along, for the ride? Right. As you were evaluating people, how did you come to a conclusion and say, hey, they've showed interest, they want to cut us a check, and this is the right the right investor to take money from?
Yeah, well, honestly, the ones that you feel are maybe the best partners are the ones that dig in the most, right? And maybe even challenge you the most. Maybe even the ones that say, hey, in the current state, you're pitching this to me. No, but I'm really interested in what you're doing. So refine it and come back to me. And so when you're evaluating a partner, they do a lot of diligence on you. That's very valuable. But the diligence you do on them is talking to companies they've invested in that might be in a similar space, and then maybe some that haven't. And we did a lot of that. And when you're evaluating that company, what you want to hear is, especially from your lead, is they're very active with you. They help mentor you. They have great connections. And ultimately, they are founder friendly. They want you to succeed, sometimes more than you want to succeed, right? That's the kind of stuff you want to hear. And with Mutual Capital, we definitely heard that. In fact, we heard that about every single venture capital firm in our syndicate, absolutely. And so each one of them brings very special elements to the table. And that's the exact thing you want to construct, right? Just like you want to construct a good founding team, you want a good founding syndicate as it relates to the venture capital firms that are really going to help take you to the top. Yeah, and you have some very well-known names in the Midwest, so Mutual Capital Partners, M25 maybe? Yeah, M25. Rev 1, of course, hometown. Yep. And who else? Am I missing somebody? Plug and Play, which is a very global VC. Okay. An accelerator, So now you got some cash. Yep. You got first customer, beta testing, what's next? Yep. So we're heads down trying to develop the product and get it past just MVP, right? So version 1.1 all the way to version 2, which is just more tools, better accessibility for patients, more intuitive designs. But the real main focus is business development. So going out there and partnering with different stakeholders in healthcare that really want to connect with their patients in a novel way and give them this very impactful tool. So after that, we're looking to raise a Series A round, and we'll be doing that next year, the year after. But ultimately, we are growing in this hyper growth phase of getting founded, getting customers, getting partners, getting patients on the platform, and then we'll raise a larger round to really accelerate that thereafter. Well, Luke, thank you so much. Yeah. Great conversation. Absolutely. I'm excited for you. I'm a healthcare nerd, looking to see some transformation come out of Columbus, Ohio in the healthcare space. Redi.Health might be the company that does that. Yeah. So congratulations on the raise and everything that you guys are doing. Thank you. 614 Startups Nation, there you have it. Luke Buchanan of Redi.Health, and this is my one takeaway. Your founding team matters.
early on in the process, your idea is getting evaluated and your teeth are getting knocked in, but you need a combination of the right people with the right skills, but also the persistence and endurance to go through that venture capital raising process with you. Until next time, thank you for joining us on another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. Peace.